Can you really have a smokeless fire pit? We're about to build one right at the campsite and see if it works. Stick around and find out. Wait just a minute. Before we get to the power tools, let's get a basic understanding of what we're trying to do here. See, smoke is only present in a fire if all the fuel isn't burnt off. By creating a hotter fire with hotter oxygen, we should be able to get rid of all the smoke. Let's draw out the basic layout of what we're trying to accomplish. Don't worry, you won't need any drafting skills once we're done here. Here's the basic idea. The construction will consist of two rings, an inner and an outer, with an air gap between them. The outer ring will be made of stone, while the inner ring will be made of steel. All cheap parts you could buy at local hardware stores, but we'll come back to that. The basic premise is that cool air comes in through the holes at the bottom, gets superheated as it travels up through the chamber, and then comes out the holes at the top to create the secondary burn, hopefully eliminating any remaining fuel or smoke. The final piece is a top to cut off the hot air chamber. It will also add to the aesthetics. We're going to have to make this one out of concrete. Alright, now back to the power tools. The first thing I had to get was a fire ring. You can pick these up over at Tractor Supply for about $80. And you guessed it, the first step is to drill holes all the way around this. If you're having trouble cutting through the metal, I tried these. I think I even tried a hole saw. Get yourself one of these. These step bits work incredibly well. This one's about 1 1/8 and worked perfect for this job.
Everything just feels like a test that I feel so depressed when I can't seem to get out. But something deep inside won't let me quit. I swear that I'm inspired by all this shit.
Be extra careful because these shards can be extremely sharp and end up splintering into your hand. If you want to get your holes perfectly aligned, I suggest getting some masking tape and just putting lines on it like this. Once you do that, you can just easily lay it across your surface and then plot them out accordingly. I put a dot about every 2.5 inches. Now just take your favorite marker, place a dot everywhere you've got a line on that piece of tape. That's where you're going to drill. If you're having trouble lining it up, just make sure you put the tape in the middle of your last hole. That'll be a good guideline. Now, let's get carried away with our power tools. There's definitely something about using power tools that turns us all into dwarven warriors. Oh, it's a thing of beauty. Whoa. Now that we've got that knocked out, it's time to head over to Home Depot and pick up some foam core. I picked up a 4x8 for about $20. So I measured all the cuts that I'm going to need for the top of the smokeless fire pit. And then instead of cutting them all individually, I want them pretty close to each other. So what I'm doing is I've just taped them all at a few different corners here. I'm just gonna cut it on the saw, and then should all be pretty equal cuts. We'll see how that turns out.
I'm too honest when I take a few shots. They're too toxic, need to take the new song. You cannot save me, 'cause I don't need saving. It's everything I've been chasing.
I'm just going to add a little bit more tape so when I end up sawing these off so it'll hold together. And I'm going to be sure to do it to both sides. Now it's time to head back to the bandsaw for our final cuts. This entire form is going to be made for the top portion, not only to cut off the hot airflow, but also to be used as a table.
I'm back, you know that I never left. I got tracks and some music that you never guessed.
Alright guys, the next thing I've done was I used the bandsaw and cut up this piece of MDF board. I'm going to see if I can get that to work versus using the foam. What I plan on doing is basically taking these and putting these all around. And so what that'll do is give me about 1.5 inches of concrete. We'll see if that's going to work. So I got some of this contact cement, and the first thing I'm going to do is put a little bit on each surface that I'm going to stick it to. It says give it 15 minutes, but not over 2 hours. So we're going to see how that does. This stuff is supposed to create an instant bond once it's ready. We'll see how well it works, especially because this MDF isn't the most flexible. I mean, hopefully I'm able to get this turn here, but we'll see. So got it on that piece and set that aside for a few. And I'm going to start on this outer edge first. I am working in my garage and the door is open, but these fumes are still pretty potent. Almost feels like I should probably have a respirator on or something. Actually looks like it's eating this. Ugh. Let's see if it works. Ooh, I don't know if that's gonna work. Looks like it's dissolving the foam. Give it 15 minutes and see what happens. Hopefully it didn't eat into my space too much here. So it's been about 15 minutes. Let's see if this stuff is going to be able to stick. If you're following along with me, this stuff, this contact cement really needs to be fully dry before you try to touch it to itself. And then just make sure once you get it lined up, supposedly it's not going to move afterwards. I may have to go back to the foam instead of this MDF board. Let me try that and see how that works out. Be back in a minute. The next thing I'm going to do is use some of the scrap material so that we can get these borders up. Basically, put another inch and a half on here. So I'm going to make quite a few cuts to get those borders up. Alright, so it's been about 15 minutes. And we are gonna give it a go. Let's see if we can make this stuff work. Looks like it's holding so far. So just keep working that around. Well, the contact cement's definitely working, but I don't know if I could tell you to use it on foam. It really ate some of that foam. It took away from the surface of it. So it's definitely sticking a lot better than the MDF board. But it does look like there's a few gaps. I might be able to take care of that with silicone though. And I think I am going to reinforce it with duct tape just to make sure it stays when I put the cement in it. I'm definitely going to have to get some on this corner. But first one's not bad. We'll move on to the other ones. This is working out really well. So all I'm doing is just making sure I'm holding down a little piece here. Once that contact cement's dry, that's when you put them both together. And it's literally just being a breeze now. And it's supposed to be fairly instant, so I wouldn't recommend trying to move it afterwards. As you can see, it does pop up a little bit, so you will have a little bit of play with it. But I don't know if these are exactly 100% dry, but seems like once you get it on there, it's pretty much going to stay. Looks like I may not have put enough on there. And if not, might resort to the duct tape on that corner. Yeah, I'll just duck it. So all I'm doing now is taking the triangle just to get a square here, measuring off the flat ends of it. And I'm going to need 8 of these. Just a quick score. So now I'm adding a bit of duct tape to it. It's not that I don't trust this stuff, but yeah, I don't trust it. So I'm just putting some on the corners here, a little reinforcement, because each one of these is probably going to weigh at least 20 pounds. Now this next step is purely optional. I wanted to do it because I didn't want such a hard edge on my corners. So this, put a little bit of silicone in there. It'll help to round out those edges as well as to make sure that the concrete doesn't seep through the foam here. Bet you guys are wondering why I've got the glasses on. We're about to rip apart some lathe. Could use snips on this, but I don't feel like it. We're using power tools. Now that we've got the concrete mixed, I'm going to go ahead and pour it in the molds. I didn't show it, but I did squash the lathe in here right around this point. Now that we've got all the materials out of the campsite, it's time for the final build. We moved away most of the rocks and leveled out as much as we could, but the next piece, we want to go ahead and put pea gravel down. This is going to give us a nice, easy surface that we're going to be able to make as flat as possible for the foundation.
We want the ring to fit on there. Get out of there.
We're gonna use an air bubble
That's way better.
with our naked caveman eye.
No, that's not gonna work.
For the bottom layer of bricks, make sure you leave about an inch or an inch and a half worth of space just to allow enough airflow to pull in that cool air. The next 2 levels of bricks we're going to put together as tightly as possible so no air can get through.
I mean, it looks awesome, dude. I like the nice wide top.
Check out the difference between a smokeless and a traditional fire pit. There's a lot more smoke on the one on the right. And this is our older one with a lot more wood in it. It still has a little bit of smoke coming out, but as you can see, not a lot at all. Come back next time where we try to get rid of all of the smoke. We've got a new design in mind, so make sure you subscribe and follow. and come back for more. Stay tuned. Be safe out there, campers.